right. Thank you guys for joining me here for the final pick of the Detroit Lions draft here in 2024. Or the question should be, will it be the final pick in 2024? That's what we're about to find out together. I just got home and figured we might as well finish this thing out. And let me get this pulled up here so we can watch the last pick. I guess, as I just said, will it be? Lions are 2 picks away. Looks like the Oakland Raiders just took Dylan Laub at 208, and the Rams should be on the clock here in just a moment. And Brad Holmes really just knocked it out the park with Mekhi Wingo there. Amazing pick. Trading up 3 times in one day. Excellent job. I think that we called it quite a bit during this process that the Lions were going to be big time trade, partners, or we're going to find big time trade partners and opportunities throughout this draft. And that's exactly what they did. There was no way that he was going to allow his team to have such a wide gap between picks. And Brad Holmes has done an excellent job there at making sure that this Lions team has plenty of depth and now has plenty of playmakers to go along with that depth. Some say that Mekhi Wingo may not be, the player that is going to get a lot of playing time. Some have said that he's a nobody this late in the round, this late in the draft, that he's not going to do anything. I don't believe that. I don't believe that one bit. Every year we have players from every round that do phenomenal things. And, when you're coached the right way with the best defensive line coach, or at least what has been projected to be the best defensive line coach in the draft, the best defensive line coach in the league, why wouldn't Mekhi Wingo have an opportunity to make plays? He's a defensive tackle. He's not a defensive end. He's not an edge rusher. He's a defensive tackle. He's a little bit of a tweener, right around 284 pounds. So that gives him some positional versatility where, he could be utilized inside and outside. So I'm expecting a lot out of this guy, to be honest with you. I think he's fallen in this draft for whatever reason. I don't know. But that was a big mistake. So pick is in for the Lions. Linebacker Nathaniel Watson. Who did that just go to? That just went to the Cleveland Browns. So as I was saying a minute ago, look, I like Steely Chambers to the Lions here. I also thought that, there could be room for a kicker. We're about to find out right now who this final pick for the Detroit Lions is potentially going to be here in 2024. Trying to pull up the best available here. So I did also say that center Bo Lemer, I do like him. The last best center to come out of Arkansas is none other than Frank Ragnow. The only thing that I dislike about Bo Lemer is his arm length. But being a center, sometimes that stuff is workable. The center is probably the only position across the offensive line where you can have a little bit of a shorter arm length. But at 6'5", 302, he's got great height. And the guy is a baller. He's coming from the right school to be a center. And then again, linebacker Steely Chambers out of Ohio State University. I love that kid's effort, man. I think that he's going to be a great ball player in the NFL. He may not be able to crack the starting lineup this year, but you just never know. You never know with these guys. Lions pick is still waiting to be announced, and looks like it's Christian Mahogany. Another excellent pick here on the offensive line. 2023 first team all ACC guard. Beautiful pick here. So Christian Mahogany, love it. Good job, Lions. Good job. Addressing the biggest needs for this Lions team here in 2024. Cornerback, safety, defensive tackle, offensive guard. The Lions are doing an excellent job at ensuring the future of this team. And you're only as good as your depth, right? Those are what Brad Holmes will tell you. Those are the things that Brad Holmes will tell you all day until you're blue in the face, that you can't win games without depth in this league. You just can't. What do you guys think about the last pick there in Mahogany? I think it's awesome. I think it's a great pick. I know a few of you wanted Mahogany throughout the day. Now with Kobe, I would have loved to have seen Brendan Rice. There is something that we don't know about Brendan Rice, because for the way he projected into this draft and the skill set that he possesses, the bloodline that he possesses, something's got to be way off with this kid. I'm sure it'll come out later, but we'll see. Yeah, I got a cab on the truck, J-Rod. Yep, absolutely. That's why you can never see out of the back window. Better the hunt. I haven't seen the mail come yet today. I don't know if it's in the mailbox. I'll go check the mailbox. Villain Holmes, says, here's Johnny. Yeah, Mahogany is a steal. Yeah, and kind of what I was saying earlier too, Bob, is that, maybe his dad is kind of the problem. He kind of rubbed some of the teams the wrong way by saying, I only want my son to play for this team, that team. And now he might play for no team. At least not drafted. So kind of sucks. Brendan Rice seems like he's a good dude overall. I'm going to try to get Christian Mahogany stuff pulled up here. So just so you guys know, this is not a typical draft coverage for me. Normally it's, all draft long, and we go through every round, every player, and do things a little bit differently. But because I was in Detroit, it kind of really screwed everything up, but I couldn't miss that. I really couldn't. Once in a lifetime opportunity. So Christian Mahogany, 6'3", 314 pounds, 33.5-inch arms. You guys know what I say about the arm length. You don't play in the NFL on the offensive line unless your arms are what? 33 inches or better. And he's got 33 and a half, 10.5-inch mitts. Big paws. Guy's got some big hands. Round 6, pick 34, the Detroit Lions take Christian Mahogany. Athleticism score is through the roof at 86. He had a 5.13 40, 1.74 10-yard split. Vertical, 32.5 inches for a big man. 9 foot 1 inch broad jump. Not the greatest, but for as big as he is, I think it's just fine. Overall, this guy's been a baller in the league. First team All ACC in 2023. He did have a torn right ACL in June of 2022, and he did miss that season. He was second team All ACC in 2021. Started 11 games at right guard and started 11 games at left guard in 2020. So positional versatility is Brad Holmes' MO, and this guy has it. Is he better at run blocking versus pass blocking? I don't know that I can answer that. Let me pull up my information on Christian. Hold on. I won't be able to remember that off the top of my head. And it is muggy today in Michigan. I swear. Give me 1 second here. I'll pull up his stats. So anyway, for next year's draft, we'll be parked right here for all 3 days. And we'll be doing it right next year and getting everything lined up. As this podcast grows, everything grows. But next year, we'll plan on having a much better time with it. So Christian Mahogany, let's go through some of his stats here. Big wingspan, 82 and 2/8, man. That's huge. Huge. Run blocking grade and pass blocking grade fairly even, right around 88 and 83%. So he's pretty much equal. He's well-rounded. He's able to do both, pretty much the same. Draft projection, he was projected to be in the 3rd round. Overall, 98 was where he was supposed to go. Over 2,274 snaps of college ball underneath his belt. He is projected to be like an Andrew Voorhees, Marquise Hayes, and an Ed Ingram. Not so sure that I like those mocks, but we'll see who he is as a Detroit Lion. How about that? There you go. Here's Johnny says mahogany. Wow, Chris Craft boats were made of mahogany. That's funny. Who else did we have in here? J-Rod says, at will, got my jersey email. Thanks. I might wait for Arnold #1 black for my dad. My dad's nickname is Arnold. Maybe a Father's Day gift. Thanks again. Appreciate you. J-Rod, no, we appreciate you, man. We appreciate you. We appreciate all of the subscribers to Rockdown Podcast Network and Rockdown Detroit Lions. And I'm happy that we were able to, do what we do here, which is give back to the Lions community. Every channel that Rockdown Podcast Network does is going to be set up the same way. And when we get to that point of bringing in more channels, I won't be doing it. We'll have other people doing other teams. I couldn't do other teams. It's all about the fan base. It's all about the community. And then, of course, the coverage and trying to get you the best information. So let me recap this draft. A few things that I've been saying all offseason. Number one, that the pass rush lives and dies through the middle of the defense. That is where the pass rush is started. I don't care what you have on your team as far as players, edge rushers, whatever you have on your team that are really good players. The pass rush in the NFL or football, ever since it's been born, has always lived, eat, and breathed through the middle of the defense. So defensive tackles are extremely important. Brad Holmes went out and addressed that this offseason by bringing in DJ Reader, someone that when he's healthy is one of the best defensive tackles in this league. You also have a Lee McNeil who he's paired up with that has already established himself as one of the best defensive tackles in this league. And now you've gone ahead and added a guy like Mekhi Wingo, who projects, in my opinion, to be a very similar strength like Aaron Donald. Now he's a little bit lighter, about 20 pounds lighter. I think he's about a half inch, 3/4 of an inch shorter, but very similar build, right? He's not as thick or as wide as Aaron Donald. I don't believe he's definitely not as strong, but he can be over time. And I'm not saying he's ever going to be like an Aaron Donald, when he finishes his career in the NFL. That would be great if he is, but I'm not going to say that. What I'm saying is this playing style is very similar. Very, very similar. I like what Mekhi Wingo does. And now you're bringing him into a defensive front that has a lot of versatility. It also has a lot of strengths. Now you have a Lee McNeil and Aaron, or Aiden Hutchinson on the left side, DJ Reader on the right side. What's going to happen when you put Mekhi Wingo out on the edge or on the end? At 284 pounds, he's fast enough, strong enough, agile enough to be out there. And you bring in a big front like that, you tell me what team is going to be able to run on that. Nobody. And if you went even heavier, who's to say that the Lions don't go some extremely heavy packages this year? Could you imagine for a minute that you've got all of your big men out there, and when you're up on the goal line and you've got all these big men out there and you're loaded up heavy with your fast guys, and your DBs, that we just added Terrion Arnold and Rakestraw and Sion Vaki to the mix of Brian Branch, Ifeatu Melifonwu, and Kirby Joseph. That is shaping up to be a very lethal package when you start thinking about things in the red zone. You can go up heavy and big up front, and you can get fast in the back, which is exactly what you need around the red zone. Someone to stop the run and someone to stop the pass. Now you're combining two strengths together. The defensive line, I believe this year is going to be a lot better than what people are giving it credit to be. You don't necessarily need a Daniil Hunter or, a Chase Young type of defensive end. You don't really need that, or edge rusher. Edge rusher is an outside linebacker majority of the time. We have James Houston, right? We have other guys that can turn into that edge rusher. If James Houston comes back healthy this year and picks up where he's, left off in 2022, I think we'll be just fine. You have your speed rushers on this team. I'm not going to make a bet on Matu bets yet, but if he turns out to be a halfway decent guy, this defensive front's going to be damn scary for any team that goes up against us. So let me run down our roster real quick. I'll do it when I get it, Randy. I will open it up on air, but I'll probably have to look in the package first just to make sure it's exposable live. I don't know what's in it. Let me get our depth chart up. Man, if Houston gave us 10 sacks this year, I would be ecstatic, Kobe. I'm not expecting 10, but you know what? If you put here, let me get the depth chart up first before I start speaking to all that. All right, so on this defensive front, you've got Marcus Davenport, DJ Reader, Ali McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson. Behind them, you have John Kaminsky, Levi Onwuzurike, Mitchell Agudi, Broderick Martin, Mekhi Wingo, Chris Smith, Matu Betts. I don't know why Tyson Alualu is still showing up on the depth chart. Either I'm missing something or whatever. But behind Aiden Hutchinson, you've got Josh Paschal and James Houston. So you got a 4-man front, right? You got your rush end, your defensive end, your nose tackle, and your defensive tackle. That's how they're being listed. Now, I don't necessarily agree that each one of those players falls into those categories. Those are just generic categories. I'm going to pull it up a different way here, too. All right, so left defensive end, you have Aiden Hutchinson. Left defensive tackle, Ali McNeil. Right defensive tackle, DJ Reader. Right defensive end, you have Marcus Davenport. That lines up more to the Lions 4-3. Behind Aiden Hutchinson, you have Mitchell Agudi. I don't agree with that, but we'll see where that goes. Behind Marcus Davenport, you have John Kaminsky. Behind DJ Reader, you have Broderick Martin and then Mekhi Wingo. Behind Ali McNeil, you then have Levi Onwuzurike and Chris Smith. So there's 9 guys in a total of 12 on the defensive line. Marcus Davenport on the right defensive end. Behind him, John Kaminsky. Behind him, Josh Paschal. It's kind of crazy that Josh Paschal is listed as 3rd on the depth chart. So here's where I'm thinking right now. If the players that we brought in, if they turn out to be the players that they have been, I would say behind Aiden Hutchinson, you could potentially have Matu Betts. Behind Marcus Davenport, you would hope that it would be Josh Paschal. You really would. But see, Josh plays inside and outside. I think that Mekhi Wingo will be able to slide on the right defensive end position depending on what scheme they're running that day and what's going on against our opponent. I feel pretty confident that Mekhi Wingo can swing out to the outside. But the point that I was trying to make earlier is, what if you have Aiden Hutchinson, Ali McNeil, DJ Reader, Mekhi Wingo, and Marcus Davenport, all 5 of those guys as down linemen, right? Some of them might be up. That's a crazy good defensive line. Crazy good defensive line. And then you got John Kaminsky, Levi Onwuzurike, and Josh Paschal to back them up. I see, yeah, to your point, Salty Pork Chop says, I see a lot of 3 safety sets this season. I think that we're going to utilize, the nickel a lot more this season. I think that we're going to see a transition with our linebackers this season, to be honest with you. When you have a good defensive package up front, I see the Lions being able to utilize our linebackers more as the blitzing linebackers, and you won't have to blitz your DBs as often. If your DBs are as good as what they're projected to be, and everyone is covered, all the Lions needed last year was like that extra 10th or 0.2 of a second to get to the quarterback. That's all they needed. But because our DBs couldn't hold anybody, not even for 2.7 seconds, we couldn't hold anybody. our defensive line could never finish. So yeah, you might get more coverage sacks, but a sack is a sack, right? I mean, it is what it is. I don't care how you get it. If you can positively affect the defense by, creating turnovers, TFLs, getting to the quarterback, flipping the field, dropping them back for yards, whatever it is, it matters. It helps. So I would rather see the back end of our defense become a strength that helps our defensive front in the future, or helps our defensive front throughout the game plan. I need something to drink here. Now I'll do another video about this week, but let me tell you guys really quick about roster roulette again. Here's the reason why we didn't grab a defensive end or an edge rusher, at least yet, right? We don't know what we're going to do for the rest of the season. Aiden Hutchinson is entering his third season, okay? If they're expecting to pay him a boatload of money after this next year, then I would be willing to bet against roster roulette that our next defensive end will be next year. And the reason why is depending on where you grab them. If you were to take one in the first round, great. But if you don't and you take one in the second round, you've only got them for 4 seasons. You need those contracts to offset. Roster roulette is simple. You grab a defensive end, let's say 2024, in the first round. We'll call him Aiden Hutchinson. In 4 seasons, you need to grab another defensive end in the first round or second round to be on the opposite end of his contract. Expecting that the guy, Aiden Hutchinson, that you grab first turns out to be, someone you want to keep around that you're going to have to pay. Let's call it $30 million a year that he gets. I'm not saying that's what he's going to get, but let's just say it's $30 million. Big contract, right? Well, now you grabbed another guy 4 seasons later. So he's going to be 4 seasons behind a bag, where the first guy is going to be at the end of his big bag. So one contract is dropping out the funnel and a new contract is coming in the funnel. You see how that makes a lot of sense? So when you look at a draft and you look at how you're going to select your players, to me, it's very simple. You want guys to come in and drop out of that funnel at opposite ends of the spectrum to help keep your cap in line with your future. Otherwise, you get into cap purgatory and you end up where Brad Holmes started. Brad Holmes picked up this team with $65 million in dead cap. And I think there's like another $20 million in injury, like dead money to injury and all these other things. We had no money. There's no way you can build a team with no money. And we had to build draft assets by trading Matthew Stafford to kick this thing off. So again, a lot of us wanted to have, that next guy on the other end of the defense. We're talking a top 2 defensive front against the run already. How much better do you really need it to be? Sacks are great, but they're not everything. You can't correlate sacks to, every team winning a Super Bowl or winning the division. It's not the end all be all. It's just a stat. Not every team that's won a Super Bowl has the most sacks. It's the players it's the teams that are, playing sound and disciplined and, doing the right things at the right time, following the scheme, not playing out of position. And when you build this back end of the defense like Brad Holmes just did, he just totally went all in this year on cornerbacks. He tried to do it last year. And this year, he really doubled down. Where he brought in 3 guys last year, he's bringing in, 5 guys this year. And one of the guys from last year is sticking around with Emmanuel Mosley. So he went all in on the back end of the defense. And again, now you've got all those guys that are going to be on the opposite end of the spectrum as your bigger contract guys that are up in the front of the defensive line. That's just how roster roulette works for me, is you have to weigh, right, and value all of these positions and when they're going to need to get paid. And then where you're grabbing these guys in the draft and how, their contracts will elevate over the next 2, 3, 4 seasons. Yeah, I think people are forgetting a lot about James Houston. Yeah, I have, Bobby. I mean, I've spoken about it many times. It's one of my mainstays, man. I talk about this stuff consistently. You'll find it probably, every third, fourth, fifth show. I would assume that I'm speaking to roster roulette and how it works. It's just part of the process, man. I mean, every team does it. They maybe do it a little bit differently than other teams do it. And then there's some teams that probably don't really care. They just grab names and make headlines. The teams that win tend to follow a process that makes sense. I think Brad Holmes is, how do I say it? I don't want to call him like a nerd, but that when you have someone that is very particular about how they do things, everything has to be not OCD, but kind of like that. Like everything has to be where it has to be, right? I think that's how Brad Holmes sets everything up. Everything has to go according to this plan and this process. And if we can just stick to this plan and this process, everything will work itself out because there's a proven method behind it. I mean, you're talking 50 plus years of the NFL and a lot of different methods that have been analyzed and researched and studied. And there's probably a commonality between the teams that have been successful for decades, the teams that have never been successful, and the teams that are partially successful. And I'm willing to bet that Brad Holmes has probably studied the teams that have been the most successful. And he's, figured out his own little method to his madness on how to implement a strategy that will get this team to where it needs to be. I can't say that he's doing anything wrong because he darn near got us in the Super Bowl in year 3. Man, incredible draft for Brad Holmes and the Detroit Lions. Salty says, I'll go back to the Baltimore game and have PTSD from Lamar Jackson having 10 seconds to throw. You could have the Pro Bowl secondary and get demolished if you don't have a pass rush. Yeah, I don't know that I could agree with that, because if you have a Pro Bowl secondary, right, you don't need a pass rush. Lamar can't throw the ball. If he can't throw the ball, what's going to happen? He's got to run the ball. And if you have the second best run defense, where's he going to run to? We did really well against quarterbacks this last year. Really well. There might have been a couple of scrambles, that hurt us by Justin Fields. I think there's even one by Jordan Love. But year over year, the Lions gave up less yards to quarterbacks in 2023 than they did in 2022. That was a big improvement. If you can shut down, and that's, I'm glad someone just mentioned that. No fly zone or Legion of Boom. Look, there's a reason why their defensive backfields worked and why those teams worked. If you're really good in an area, and passing is where this league is going and has been going, you shut that part down. You're already shutting the front down. You shut the front door. Now you shut the back door. You box them into the middle, which, by the way, we have Jack Campbell, Alex Anzalone, Derek Barnes, and others. I feel really confident where the team's going. I really do. There you go, J-Rod. Jared Goff. There was another question in here, something about what are some of my post-draft defensive expectations? So post-draft defensive expectations. We got UDFAs tonight. I assume that we'll probably get depending on who's left on the board, let me take a look at where we're at here. So you still have seventh round just started, right? Yeah, seventh round just started. Bills should be on the clock. So you have like what, 36 picks to go? And I guess my expectations would be you'll probably grab a couple of edge rushers as UDFAs, at least one. You're going to want to try them out. And as I'm looking at the board right now, I'll tell you this. If Nelson Caesar ends up being a UDFA, he will be a Detroit Lion. I'm going to make, if Solomon Byrd becomes a UDFA, there's a good possibility he could become a Detroit Lion. Who else is available? Jalen Harrell. See, I'm not so sure on Jalen Harrell. I'm not sure on him. Gabriel Murphy, I really liked his play, but he's a little bit short, 6'2", 247. But I gotta go with Nelson Caesar, man. 6'3", 254. He's got good size, 9.5 sacks last year. He transitions speed to power really well. Very active hands. Low center of gravity. I'm surprised that he's fallen this far. I really am. But there's a reason why the Lions bring these guys in, right? And that reason is you're going to have UDFA options. And if these guys do fall, you've already done the work on them. And you know exactly who to reach out. I guarantee you they've already spoken to some of these guys, agents, and said, look, if they become a UDFA, I want them in Detroit. And this is what we're willing to give them right now. And in those conversations have probably been going on all day. So I would expect Stiggers was taken. Oh, no. He was taken? Where did he go? Would have loved to have seen him in Detroit, man. I'll be watching him for sure. Where did he go? He went to the Jets. That makes sense. Man, he's going to be fun to watch. You mean Brock Wright? Yeah, Bob. Brock Wright was UDFA. No, we haven't gotten an edge, Brent. Last you said, we got a running back safety. No, we got a safety. I don't know why they called him a running back. Sion Vaki's a safety. He only played running back because he had to fill in. There was a lot of injuries on the Utah Utes offensive front there, and their running backs got hurt. So he had to step it up, tilt the rock, and he did a good job. I don't know who called him a running back, but he's definitely a safety. He can run the ball. So we got Sion Vaki, and then after that, we took Makai Wingo. And Mahogany, Christian Mahogany. I just want the Lions picks. Where are they at? Oh, I'm sure they did, Ray. Absolutely. I'm sure they did. I'm not saying that Sion Vaki is not going to do something offensive on the Lions. I felt confident in the video that I posted 3 weeks ago about Sion Vaki that he would be able to play special teams, that he would be able to return kicks if needed. He will always play special teams. You know, the younger guys that, you know, trying to earn their way onto this roster, doesn't matter where they're picked, they still got to earn their right, is going to be through special teams. And it just so happens that Sion Vaki can tote the rock. And I mean, speed's not great, but it's not bad either. So first round, let's recap this draft. First round, Lions take Terrion Arnold at pick 24. Look, this is probably the most perfect pick that I've seen in the last 3 years. And I know that's going to sound dumb, but it is probably the most perfect pick. And the reason why is he already has friends on the team from Alabama, number one, makes the transition easy. He has a former defensive back that he played with, that he has relationship with in Brian Branch. The Lions needed to address the cornerback room early and often, and they did both. He loves the fact that he's joining this team. Terrion Arnold seemed extremely happy that he was going to be in Detroit. And then after listening to the guy and listening to him talk, man, he's just a good dude. Like, you can just tell he's got his crap in line. You know what I mean? Talking about his goals, and, you know, he sets his goals to be a Hall of Famer. He knew that part of the process was going to be getting drafted, but that wasn't his only goal. It's now I have to stay in the NFL, and then I need to be the best in the NFL. And all of that is just part of my process to becoming a Hall of Famer in the NFL. And for a young guy like that to have those type of goals and ambitions doesn't come around a whole lot. I mean, everyone thinks about doing this or doing that. I think he's doing it a little bit differently. He's got his goals set right. Pick 61, Lions take cornerback Enos Rakestraw Jr. or Ennis Rakestraw Jr. Another good pick. There was some weird reports that came out about Ennis Rakestraw. I'm not going to put any validity to it. I think that the fact that he's now a Lion speaks volumes to what Brad Holmes is trying to do. If he was truly the second, overall graded talent as far as cornerbacks for Brad Holmes, then he got a good pick here. The fact that he fell to 61 and we didn't have to move, great pickup. Offensive tackle, Giovanni Manu. I'm not so sure that Giovanni wouldn't have been there in the 5th. But then again, there must have been absolutely nobody on the board between where Giovanni Manu was taken and where the Lions' next pick was. That's the only way you could look at it. And see, that's the question that I would ask Brad Holmes in a media circle would be, so if that was your best overall talent on the board, then that means that everybody else that was taken between where you took Giovanni and where your next pick was supposed to be, which I think was 164, that you didn't want any of those guys at all, period. And the answer has to be yes. It would have to be. So then you've got round 4, pick 132, our second trade up of the day, safety Sion Vaki. He projects well as I think more of a free safety. I'm sorry, strong safety. But we'll see. We'll see where that goes. Love his positional versatility. The guy is just an absolute baller. The way that he runs, and finishes downhill through players. He's a great tackler, keeps his eyes downfield, constantly taking care of the quarterback, the running back, whoever's getting the ball. He's got his eyes set. He works down the line and up the line. He doesn't get too far left or too far right or north or south. He works in the most efficient way to the ball carrier. And I found that really intriguing when I watched his tape, that he was so efficient at covering field. And what I mean by that is, taking angles, taking angles, one, to the boundary, and two, inside angles, which I think are forgotten about. If you take a wrong angle on the inside, that's why running backs are able to bounce outside so often. Sion Vaki never lets that happen. In all of the tape that I watched, I've never seen him get burned. Then round 6, Lions move up to 189 and take defensive tackle Mekhi Wingo. Look, Mekhi, he's going to surprise a lot of people this year. I really believe it. I think that he's going to earn himself some playing time, and he's going to be fun to watch. He's going to be fun to watch grow over the next couple of seasons. He's not as big of a project as what people are trying to say, that he is. He's really not, at least from the tape that I've watched. Now, sometimes it doesn't always transition, but look, he played for LSU. It's not like he went up against garbage, opponents here. I mean, it's a very tough conference. So I like the fact that the Lions were able to, find Mekhi Wingo late in the draft. I'm not sure why he slipped, because it can't be the talent. Maybe it's his size. But if size was the concern, then what about some of the other players that projected at his size that were taken way earlier? What about them? Because I don't think he was that far off. Braden Fisk, right around the same size. Now, I think Braden, a little bit of a different animal. He can play on the outside, I think, a little bit more than what Mekhi can. But I think that Mekhi can do both. And then last pick, round 6, 210 overall, Lions select Christian Mahogany. This might have been the steal of the draft, to be honest with you, because Christian Mahogany definitely deserved to go somewhere 3rd, 4th round. Big man, perfect arm length, between the offensive tackle and the guard that we have. I think the Lions did well. Only concern here is this. Maybe it's not really a concern, but we didn't address our future center. And after what's gone on with Ragnow, kind of get a little worried about, is he going to retire at the end of this year? Is he going to, be able to finish out his contract? And it's not a knock on the guy. Like, if he retired tomorrow, I would totally understand. I'd be disappointed, for the team, but I would totally understand it, because going through pain every single day, it's not easy. And making that pain worse because you have to show up to work, that doesn't make it any easier. So the Lions didn't address that, but they also have Graham Glasgow on the roster for the next 3 years, who's also a pretty good center. So there's really no issue here in a pinch. The Lions are covered. But I still would have loved to have seen us take a guard center guard, whatever you want to say it. They could do both. All right, so that's my spiel on our draft for today. We'll do some more videos and lives this week and kind of break down each one. Let's see what you guys got to say here. iRegister says, we don't need or want edge rushers. We want defensive ends that can be mobile and tackle. This is 2024, and the modern offense is way different than 15 years ago. It's a good point. So a lot of what I think people do, to your point, iRegister, I think that people do confuse edge rusher and end. So when you think of an edge rusher, one second here, I got to type something in. Give me 1 second here. Oh, shoot. Let me grab something out of the truck real quick, guys. I got to test a cable while I got you guys on. Give me 1 second. All right, sorry about that, but I got to test this new cable so you guys can actually hear me and tell me if it's different. All right, so I was talking about the difference between the defensive end and an edge rusher, and people kind of, I think, confuse the difference. But an edge rusher, in my opinion, is more of an outside linebacker. Someone that's usually in a stand-up position, not someone that's usually down on the line. And your defensive end is someone that's usually down on the line. So they could stand up. They can do both. But I view, pass rushers, edge rushers, more of an outside linebacker, James Houston, right? Someone that fits into just rushing the passer. That's like their primary focus. They don't normally drop into coverage a whole lot. They're usually not the greatest at it. Their only goal is to get to the quarterback. They're going to have to cover at some point, but they're usually not great. Like I said, defensive end, someone that can play down on the line, can also stand up, can play out in the wide nine if they really had to. But then someone that can also get to the quarterback, just a little bit different method. So I think that, for whatever reason, people confuse, what those really mean or intertwine, the words together. There was a chart that I was trying to find the other day that, because someone had mentioned something about the, Brad's live. Let's bring him in. Hold on a sec. We'll get him on. Can't wait to hear what he's got to say.
First of all, I want to. No, first of all, I want to start off by, I know it wasn't just Lions fans, but look, to set the NFL record for attendance for the draft site, I've said all along that we have the best fans in the world, and the anticipation of having the draft here just meant so much. We've talked about it, just being able to let the world and the NFL world get a taste of what Detroit's about and what this culture is about, and great for our city, great for our franchise. But that's something to be said. You get.
All right, real quick. Can you guys hear me okay still? Everything sounds good. Nothing sounds different or crazy. I just changed the cable. Just want to make sure there's no big drop off in quality. We had some issues with cable the other night.
700,000 fans at one draft host city. That's about as impressive as it gets. So just want to really thank the fans, just want to really thank the league and, the sports commission and everybody, just everybody that played a part in this. But just really, really excited about this. Questions?
Love the Dan Campbell jersey. Got to give me one.
Yeah, you could miss when he walks into a room, but just the uniqueness of the scouting process with that. That's a different level of football.
Yeah.
It's a little trickier to find. So what is the challenges there in finding that guy, one, and then projecting him going
Yeah,
forward?
so that was it was a cool little story because John Dorsey, he kind of got wind of, he had a really good workout, and he kind of got on the workout circuit, and and really starting back with a Demi Smith who scouted him, and then Dorsey finds out about the workout, and then Dorsey and Ray talk, and Ray comes to meet Ray Agnew, and then he's telling me like, man, I think you probably got to take a look at Giovanni here, and so. Then I watched the tape, and it's what it is. It's a low level competition. But when I watched the tape, the upside of the actual player. It's not about who he was going against and all that stuff. We just kind of got enamored with the upside, and then when we reached out to his agent and tried to get him in for a visit because he wasn't at the combine. We couldn't hardly get on the dance card. The whole dance card was filled up. So he came in on a Sunday, like a Sunday afternoon, and that was like visit number like 9, just like, and he came in and he did a great job and sat with the coaches, and we felt really good about him. We felt really good about his makeup. He's wired the right way. He's got a really cool story, and he's been through some things, but we were so blown away about just his makeup, his character, the way he's wired, and he's got a lot of upside. It's not a whole lot about right now with him. A lot like we talked about Broderick Martin last year.
All right, so I'm glad that Brad Holmes addresses that stuff early. Okay, and he said the same thing last year. So I don't know why some fans were all up in arms about Broderick Martin. Brad Holmes told us last year that when he took Broderick, he didn't want to pass on the guy because he felt like he was going to end up somewhere else. And he still would have been a project for that other team too. So Broderick was obviously a project. We knew that. He got in a little bit of snaps. So Giovanni Manu, another project. But that doesn't mean it's a wasted pick if he doesn't get on the field this year. What it means is in 2 or 3 seasons, or when he's needed, that he comes in and he plays well. That's all that it means. And if it turns out that he plays well and he gets more time next year versus this year, that's a win. Here's the thing about Giovanni Manu. He just came to the best offensive line coach, in my opinion, in the game. So that trajectory and that bend that he has to get over, right? That hurdle that he has to get over to make it onto the field is a lot shorter when you got a guy like Hank Fraley teaching you how to play the position the right way. And then you got Frank Ragnow and Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell and Graham Glasgow and Kevin Zeitler. These guys are going to get him up to speed in a hurry. And we already know that the offensive line, probably the greatest group of dudes on this team. As a unit, probably the greatest group of dudes. So I'm super excited about the fact that, we bring these type of players in, high upside, high ceiling, just need some work. There's nothing wrong with that. You have to have those players on your team. You have to.
This is more of a down the road future deal. But the upside is enormous, and just really, really excited to work with them. And he just wanted him and Vaki. Those were the guys that, going to bed last night. I literally going to bed. I was like, we're not trading in the. We're not going to trade in the 4th. I was like, we're just going to sit back and wait. But when I woke up, that's when I was like, man, it's those 2 guys that if they don't make it, those are going to be some gut punches. And so when I finally got to the facility and I went to Dan and I said, Dan, dude, there's 2 guys that, and I told him the 2 guys, and Dan was like, those are the same 2 guys that I was thinking about this morning. And I was like, let's go get them. Let's not mess around. And again, you always get the answers to the test after you pick them. And if we would have waited around, then they weren't going to make it. So
you talk about Backy, obviously a first.
So again, last year saying the same thing as this year. that if they would have waited, they were gone. And same thing about Jahmyr Gibbs, Broderick Martin, Giovanni Manu. These GMs, they have relationships. So it's just a few phone calls, or maybe he received a few text messages or whatever. I didn't catch everything he said. That when Giovanni Manu was selected, he got the answers to the tests, and he wasn't going to be there.
Guy did a lot of stuff. We talked at the annual meetings about the special teams portion of it. How big of that is a part of his game, and just what did you guys like about his ability to be really a three-phase kind of guy?
Yeah, well, that's what first stood out is, we thought he was one of the better special teams players in this entire draft. All four phases of special teams, and especially with some of the changes that are coming about, he's really, he started even coming to life even more. And then even later on in the process, just sticking to the special teams component, it kind of came to life even more with some possible return value. You're looking at him at 4 core and return units as more of a blocker, but he can actually, the stuff he can do with the ball in his hands. And so, I first saw him when he had first made the switch, when they got kind of short, at running back there at Utah. And, they just had him just fill in. But we were more so looking at him as a safety. But he looks so natural as a runner. And I was like, wait, where did these backyard instincts come from of him just running the ball and making these plays? And then not only is he's got these instincts that are just very natural that we thought, he's not even majoring in it. Like he just did that just because they kind of got shorthanded. And he's like, oh, you need down for running back? Oh, well, I'll help out. And then he starts making these plays, run the ball and in the passing game. And when I saw that, I was like, wait, he's not even majoring in this, and he's looking like that. And then you get more into his background, and, he was more of an offensive player in high school. He did a lot of things on offense. But it was very impressive what he did with the ball in his hands, and not just make miss and all that stuff. But he runs hard, man. Like he again, he's a football player that plays football like how we like it. And there's nothing about him that he doesn't have the ability to play safety, because he can do that too. And he was one of the guys that had one of the more impressive pro days, I thought, because he worked out as a DB, very long DB workout, and the DB workout was really good. And then he worked out as a running back. And then good running back. And then after the running back workout, then he works out a wide receiver. And then he does a wide receiver workout. Then he works out a special. And you see all that, and the guys, the fact to even go through all those different phases of that workout was impressive in itself. So just the love for him just kept growing. But he's a
Sounds like we have an extremely good football player that has just joined this team in Sion Vaki, the guy that I loved as safety. So Brad, echoes the same sentiment that I said earlier, that Sion Vaki did this because he just was helping out. They got thin in Utah, and he decided to help out and run the ball. And just like I said when I broke down the tape earlier in two live shows ago today, Sion Vaki making those catches over his shoulder, that's extreme talent. Like, those are not, Jameson Williams has not made those catches yet in the NFL. I'm waiting to see for Sion Vaki if he really is going to step up and play offense. I think that'll be incredible. Obviously, his more natural position when he was younger was offense, but he's been playing safety the last few seasons. So we'll see what happens. We could have a dual player on our hands. We could have a guy that switches positions once he gets through some of the training programs that the Lions are going to have set up for him. But I love what Brad Holmes is saying right here. He went through 3 different types of workouts in the same day. And just to get through those types of workouts, all 3 of them, that takes a special athlete and conditioning. So again, another amazing pick by Brad Holmes.
Very unique player. Again, it's nothing saying that he cannot play safety, but our vision of what he can become as a runner, but it starts with those special teams.
Put him straight at running back. When he comes here, he'll just be doing running back stuff. He wouldn't do defense first.
We have some options there, but we know he can play safety. Like, we know he can do that. But the vision is, we're so intrigued by the running back stuff, and especially he hadn't been majoring in it. And so it's like, well, how far can this thing go if he actually is majoring in this thing in one room? So that's going to be the vision
Back to
on
the
the
trades,
outside.
a quick sec. I mean, you sort of hinted at it yesterday, right? Like, it's tough to get future assets, and obviously, I think both these guys, like, you have big visions for them down the road. How soon do they have to get it, or what do they have to do to sort of make that worthwhile? That, like, you know, you're a little short-handed, I guess, for next year. Or do you just kind of cross that bridge when it comes to the draft picks?
Well, I wouldn't say it's shorthanded. I think the only pick we don't have is a third round pick. Is that right?
Yeah, right.
Would that be shorthanded? If you're missing one third round pick? Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
dude, tell him,
I
Brad.
feel really good about it.
I
And
said
we
the
looked at that because
I said the same thing earlier. Like, man, we got a first, a second, a fourth, a fifth, 2 6, and 2 7th round picks. And look what Brad just did with these picks. We didn't have anything extra, and he went and took care of business today. I mean, he completely fleeced the NFL again and made all of these moves work in the favor of the Detroit Lions. So, no, we're not shorthanded next year. We can make up for a third round pick. I don't know what this guy's talking about. Did I miss something? Did Brad Holmes compare Vaki to Lawrence Taylor? Did I miss that? What am I missing here? You guys are talking about Lawrence Taylor in here. And I agree with all of you. Like, Lawrence Taylor was a very, very special player. The dude like cut off his finger during a game so he could continue to play. But what did I miss? I don't know what we're talking about here.
because I would have not thought that we'd have been able to trade twice into the fourth round. And when I looked at you look at all those things, it's like, okay, well, what's the future assets and all that stuff? And when we did all the calculations, I was like, wait, you can do, because we had the extra 4. And, we had 3. And I was like, man, if you can do all this and the only thing you really feel like you're losing is a future third, like, that's it. Like, just go ahead and do it. And so we felt really good about that. And that's why we went ahead and did it. So you always get a better feeling that you can go and get your guys.
I got you, Jaster.
And that's what we did. And we couldn't be more thrilled about it. And even what we still have left from a capital standpoint for the future.
Was you overall, with the draft, which I was able to add, all the pieces, do you feel like you've got enough now to take you guys over that next step of the hump?
Yeah, look, I was thinking about that this morning, Eric, about just a lot of these guys, where we're at as a roster, man, if they win a spot and play, then they play. If they don't, they don't. Like, I don't, you look at the corners, like, yeah, we really like these corners. They're rookies. I don't know, they got to win a spot, because Carlton Davis has been a proven starter. A healthy Emmanuel Mosley is a proven starter. Amik Robertson is a proven, like, these are good players that have been proven starters that's made play. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just a given, but they all want to play. They're all wired right. But, man, look, and it's good to be there from a roster standpoint, you get, if these corners.
I love his energy. And we talked about that yesterday too, that just because these guys come in as a first rounder, second rounder, third rounder, it doesn't matter where they're selected. They have to win and earn everything on this team. And that's why Brad Holmes is stuck to his guns, all 4 drafts now, that not everybody can be a Detroit Lion. Not everybody can play for Detroit. It's just not the way that it works. But more importantly, when you do get an opportunity to play in Detroit, you have to earn every single yard that you gain with these coaches and the entire coaching staff, and especially the head coach, Dan Campbell. And if you start to stumble for a minute, they're going to pull you out and put somebody else in. So just like you have to earn it on the field, you have to earn it every single day in practice, outside of practice, in the meeting room, in the film room, everywhere you go, in the community. They want these guys active. And Brad Holmes has hit the nail on the head once again. this is a very good spot for your cornerback room to be in. Iron sharpens iron. I know it's a corny adage, but it's true. When you have really good players that are going to fight and claw and scratch to get playing time, everybody's going to get better and quicker. These rookies are going to get better quicker.
They play. They got to win a spot. And that's for everybody. So it's a good feeling to be in a spot where we feel good about the depth we have. We feel good about the future we have. But, man, those guys got to compete and win spots. But I know that we're a better football team now to take that step, like what you were talking about. But, it's going to be really up to them now. We're going to do our part and make sure that they're surrounded with the resources to be set up for success with their development. But those guys got to compete.
Brad, do you have any insights on Christian Mahogany falling? It seems like he was somebody that was supposed to be drafted much higher. Like a lot of places had him as his third-round pick.
Yeah,
Kind
I
of
was shocked. I didn't think he would still be there at that point. I can't really go into details. I could probably point out a thing here or there that may have been a reason that we'll keep internally, but I saw there's other players that I probably would have had a lot more questions on, that went. So I don't know. I just know that he fits how we want to play, and yeah, he's a tough, physical. He's got some dirtbag in him. And he's just one of those tough Jersey kids that he doesn't take a lot of crap. And he's got some fun tape to watch, and he's gone against some good defensive linemen, and he's bode well versus them. So we were excited to get him.
Brad, your penchant for trading up, is that partly because you have a very specific vision of the type of players you want that maybe other teams don't have, and also because with your roster, you can be particular and specific and jump up and get somebody?
Yeah, it's a little mixture of both. It's me and Dan, we'll have the same vision of what we see with that player, whether it's where their development, what stage that they might be able to contribute, what the usage will be, what the role will be. But once we're aligned there, it's just, man, let's just go get the guys that we want. And that's really what it comes down to. But also it comes down to, how many late-round picks can you have that from where we are as a roster? You start looking around, and you start looking at the board as well. You start looking at the board, and it's like, man, these guys are just sticking out a little bit more than some other guys. They're on the board for a reason because you're comfortable with drafting those players. That's why they're up there, but some kind of stick out a little bit more than others. And so then you start looking back, it's like, well, you got 2 6s, you got a 7, and you start looking, you're like, it's going to be hard. It's like, yeah, you could get this wide receiver, but he doesn't play special teams, and so I don't really know how this is going to work, because now he would have to really win a spot, but he's probably not. And some guys just it doesn't add up and just make a lot of sense. So, but we couldn't be more thrilled with the guys that we got.
With Wingo.
All right, so before we get to Wingo here, I'm glad that he just addressed this. So the biggest reason why he was not taking a wide receiver is if the wide receiver is not playing special teams, it was going to be extremely difficult for that player to win a position on this team. And the way that he looks at this roster, throwing a few extra words into Brad's mouth here, he does not view any outside receiver this late in the draft or in the middle of the draft or wherever, they had an opportunity to take one as an individual that was going to be able to crack this roster, this depth chart of the wide receivers that are currently on it. So when you look at that, you've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, DPJ, Traquan Smith, Khalif Raymond, Antoine Green. You have enough guys that, once you get your top 3 set, which you've probably already got your top 2 set, after 3, it gets a little sticky, right? I mean, those guys, I think, that are on the roster already, out of the 5, that we think are probably going to make this roster right now, there might be a fight for the 6th. The question is, are the Lions going to keep 6? Are they only going to keep 5? They kept 6 last year because of Jameson Williams. They kept 5 the year before that. So I can't see right now with the depth chart where, 5 of these guys aren't already on the roster. So unless someone, has an injury, I mean, Brad Holmes again tells us exactly why he did it.
It's really obvious to see the football character aspect.
Yeah.
A guy that comes back.
Brad, it's Mekhi Wingo, defensive tackle out of LSU. Extremely good player. He slipped into the 5th round. I loved his tape. We spoke about him. I didn't do a video on him, but we spoke about him, throughout this offseason process, especially after the draft. I was very surprised that he slipped past the 3rd round. I didn't even see him going that far, honestly. So again, we're going to find out what Brad Holmes has to say.
Injury very similar to what we saw reported last year. From an on-field skill set, what do you see there? Is there, is there an overlap with a player you've scouted or had before that can maybe help us understand what he's about a little bit more?
Yeah, I would say you're right on the football character aspect. I mean, this guy fits our culture like a glove. Great kid. Look, it's hard to don that number 18 at LSU. That just means something. But I think his character speaks for itself. He plays. His football character shows on film too, the way that he plays. But the role, and it's a good question because that's kind of what I had to get to. Was I originally was looking at him as purely just a defensive tackle that was just going to be playing inside, and I was kind of, I was like, man, I'm not sure. But when I kept watching him, his rush ability really started to come.
I hate to do it, guys, but did you catch the live that I did when I found out that Mekhi Wingo was taken by the Lions? Didn't I say that he was going to play inside and out, that he had an opportunity to be someone on the outside to rush? I think we did.
The light, and I kind of put him in a different kind of box, a little bit like what we talked about Pascal when Pascal came out. These guys are just like, okay, can you play on the edge on 1st and 2nd down, and can he do some inside rush? Wingo, he's got a lot of good stuff on tape as an edge rusher.
Yes, Brett, we got him.
Surprisingly, but his sub rush is pretty impressive. Not saying that he can't play base downs inside because he can do that as well. But when you put him in that specialized category or that position, whether it's more of a big end or more of kind of an elephant that can do some interchangeable things, that's kind of where it's Sam. And when we saw him in that light, that's kind of when he became more attractive to us.
Hey, real quick on Mekhi Wingo. So, you guys, there's something that I paid great attention to this offseason, and that was going to be which gap were the Lions going to be looking for to fill. And I kept mentioning B gap. We needed a B gap guy, someone that, on the defensive line that can fit that B gap and a B gap rusher, right? Mekhi Wingo, 2021. Primary gap played, B gap. 2022, primary gap played, B gap. 2023, primary gap played, B gap. So again, I hit the gap right. I never expected Mekhi Wingo to fall to where he fell and the Lions to actually have a shot to get him. But again, when we look and we analyze what was our defense missing last year and what did we really need to improve on, the B gap was an area of concern all season. And we didn't really have anybody that projected well to slide in and take care of it in 2024. Brad Holmes potentially just fixed that problem. Also with adding DJ Reader, though, too, because DJ can take up 2 gaps easily. And we know that, our Lions went from a single gap to a 1.5 gap scheme this last season. And we saw a tremendous jump in the run stopping ability. So again, and to your point, Bob W., great draft for the Lions. They really, really plugged up the holes, not only in free agency, but now they doubled down in the draft to really pay attention to the areas of need without making them needs. And that is the craziest thing that I will never understand about how Brad Holmes does what he does, because he's not picking these guys for need. They're somehow lining up to what he says as the perfect fit, the perfect player, the guy that they wanted. And oh, by the way, they happen to fit exactly what we needed. I don't understand it. But let me show you guys this on the screen so that you know I'm not full of poo-poo here. There's some people that just talk to talk, but we're gonna walk the walk. So if you look down here, snaps by alignment, he's playing 75% or more of his snaps in the B gap. Now, he got a ton of snaps in 2022, so I don't know if he missed some games this year. I don't think he did, but run defense grade 75, pass rush grade 73, true pass set rush grade 77. So he's pretty even all the way around. The pass rush win rate, a little bit low. So when I look at guys that, have a really high pass rush win rate, we know that that'll translate to the NFL. His being a little bit lower, he's going to have to work on his technique. And that's where, his hand fighting and everything else is going to have to be extremely good. His run stop rate, again, that's extremely, extremely low. Those are two concerns, but you know what? Technique will fix a lot of this if you have the physical attributes, right? And he does. So first look at Mekhi Wingo, 6'1", 295, according to PFF. But I think I think his actual combine weight was more like 284 or 285, somewhere in that range. But he has a little bit of shorter arm syndrome and legs that will limit his, I don't know if they really meant efficacy instead of efficiency, but maybe efficacy fits, and versatility. That he will likely be limited between the 2-eye and the 4-eye alignments in the 4-3 scheme. So we definitely run the 4-3 scheme, but I guess 2-eye to 4-eye, I mean, yeah, he kind of fits right in there, 3 tech. However, he's got he's quick, got quickness, he's consistent hand placement, and it can lead to some success as a rotational pass rusher in the NFL. And that's what Brad Holmes was just speaking to, was his ability to rotate, on the outside as well as the inside. So I'm excited, man. I am super excited about this kid. Let's keep going, Brad Holmes.
I know y'all trying to keep it light a little bit. What was the idea with the jerseys this year?
Yeah, look, I'm not taking any credit for this one. This was, but I'm glad that the idea was brought up. But this was Rod Wood's idea, for us to wear these jerseys, and I thought it looked awesome on television. I mean, just the text that I was getting and just me seeing, I was like, wow, that's even cooler than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, it was Rod's idea, obviously, with the new blacks and just the whole story. I'm sure you guys heard about Dan when he wanted the black jerseys back. So it all kind of came full circle. But I thought that was a good look.
Brad, you were talking about how you like your depth more now and maybe your team overall more, the future. The teams in your division have some interesting, young, promising talent too. Can you see a scenario in a year or two where this is one of the best divisions in the game?
I could see it heading that way for sure. I don't think it's hard to make an argument for it now, in terms of, I mean, those guys got some good players, and we got some good players too. So, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good division. Obviously you kind of saw it last year, of some of the guys in the division, making some surges. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to expect everybody's best, whether it's in the division or outside. But yeah, but we'll be ready.
Without revealing any names, you always talk about the board. How's the board set up? Is you have like list 1 through 300, you just check them off, or do you have, first round guys, second round guys? How does that work? Because the general public has no idea.
Yeah, I try to be as generalized as
Hold
I
on.
Check them off, or do you
Let me
have-
let me rewind that.
making some surges. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to expect everybody's best, whether it's in the division or outside. But, yeah, but we'll be ready.
Without revealing any names, you always talk about the board. How's the board set up is you have like list 1 through 300, you just check them off, or do you have, first round guys, second round guys? How does that work? Because the general public has no idea.
Yeah, I try to be as generalized as I can, but it is vertically by positions, and we're not big rounds. We have it set up in a way where it equates to a round. We just don't use the word round, just because when you start, and this is the same thing with our grading scale. We don't use rounds on our grading scale. Sometimes I might say we had a second round grade because that's kind of what makes sense. But the reason why we kind of stay away from the whole rounds thing is that when they become on your roster, they're either a role, they're either a starter, they're either backup. They're not a round anymore. It's not a 4th round receiver. It's not a 6th round safety. He's either backup or he's a high end backup or that's what it is. So, but yeah, it's vertically by position from top to the bottom.
Is there a big gap like between, again, just using terms that we would understand, first to second round, or that blue chip versus whatever the next tier is? Like how big is that? When you drop from one tier to the next.
Yeah, it's really more so the grade will reflect what the upside and the role is, and then that's where you kind of get the separation and gaps. And really, it's actually cool to look at it horizontally than it is to look at it vertically. You do so much work over the whole year. By the time you get around to like March, you have a good feel of how it looks vertically. But sometimes you got to look at it horizontally with different positions. And then that's when you can truly kind of get a sense of, like how good is this draft? How strong is this draft? We're looking at the whole thing on, I believe it was Monday, and you could clearly see, we have it split with offense and defense, and you could clearly see we had a whole lot more names on the offensive side of the ball than we had on the defensive side of the ball, and so that's when you kind of got clarity that, yeah, this is a offensively strong draft.
It's like that starting line, and then
yeah. So if you have, if you have everything stacked vertically by position, you got your running backs, quarterbacks, and wide receivers. Well, you got them vertically stacked, but also when you look at it next to other positions, so it's like, okay, what's this wide receiver that we got, in the same bucket as this guard? What's this D tackle? And then that's kind of get a good feel. That's one little tool. It's been good.
Really quickly, just before you go, you got 2 big extensions done this week. It just the timeliness of it was your first draft class. What's their success is your success. What did it mean for the organization to extend Amon-Ra and Panay?
Oh, it meant everything. Look, first of all, I'm so happy for them. Those guys are truly our core. Those guys truly are our foundation. They were our first draft. But the main thing that I've been saying to everybody is that it represents not only a testament to all the hard work that they've done, but it's such a representation of who we are as an organization in terms of, man, they earn that. Like, they earn that. And we're all about earning it. We're not expecting a shortcut here or there, and man, it's all the credit to them. But yeah, extremely happy. But it's cool that both of those guys. Look, it says a lot to who you extend. It speaks not only to a lot of different areas, but it speaks to the locker room. And who you pay, who you draft, who you extend, who and so I do think I kind of saw the clip of our other wide receivers, celebrating, St. Brown outside in front of the facility, and I just think that's really cool because I think that he's highly respected, and I think no one would argue that he has truly earned that. And the same thing with Panay. I was talking to Panay, and after he got done signing his contract, it's like, man, it's like 3 years ago. He was here with his parents. We had just drafted him. He's here with his parents, and now he's got 2 kids running around and just signed this big. He's the highest paid tackle. But no, those guys represent everything that we're about. They embody everything that we're about, and it was a no-brainer in terms of making the decision to do those extensions. Obviously, it's business that comes involved. We thought we were actually going to get it done a lot earlier, but the business just kind of takes a little bit longer. But those are easy decisions. We're happy for those guys. Huh?
I said it wasn't purposeful to do it Thursday then, first day of the draft?
No, it really wasn't. It's just we kind of got wind that that it was getting close. It was like Tuesday or Wednesday that we kind of got wind, like, I think we're getting close. Like, I think it's a possibility that it could be Wednesday, and so that's just kind of how it happened, but wasn't intentional. Yep. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Give me a second. I got to get this off here. All right. So I love the fact that, the vertical positioning and everything that he was talking about. Next year, you're going to see that from me. So we've got a giant whiteboard that we're bringing in. It's like 4 feet by 5 feet or something crazy. It's huge. It's a huge board, big whiteboard, super heavy. Megan's had one. And I wanted to get it put up this year. I had good intentions. I really did. Just didn't get it done. Time didn't allow. But next year, you're going to see a full board. I'm going to, probably get some sort of magnets made up that I can slide names in and out of exactly like they do. I mean, we've seen it on their boards. I'm going to mock it up just like their board as opposed to using, the dry erase markers because that stuff will just disappear. So I'm going to try to do some vertical positioning exactly like they do it. Obviously, I don't have a clue as to how they do it, but I'm going to do it my own way. It'll look similar, and we'll have some fun with it. I think that I want to have it interactive with the fans so that maybe one side of the board will be like the chat, draft, and then my side of the board will be my draft and what I see happening. And we'll have a little fun competition with it. You guys have to send me a giveaway. How about that? We'll do that. You guys send me a gift if I win. I'm just kidding. We'll have some fun with it, though. I think it'd be a good time. I think interactive is always fun. So, all right. I really don't have much else to say today. I think that we've had a very successful draft. I said this earlier that I really believe that Terrion Arnold could end up being the third best draft pick in Brad Holmes' legacy by the time he's done. That is my hot take of the day. And that's without even seeing the guy step foot on the field in the NFL. I've watched him play at Alabama. So, and I say that because I don't know who the second pick is going to be. Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown is number one right now. No, I take that back. It's clearly right now to me, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown and Penei Sewell. That's 1 and 2. And I think that Terrion Arnold could be number 3. I was going to fight between, is Aiden Hutchinson going to be in the top 3, but he can't be yet. He can't be. He's got to get to his second contract. So Aiden Hutchinson will end up being that third guy before Terrion Arnold becomes that third guy. But we expect nothing but the best out of Aiden. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few years in how Terrion Arnold grows and develops with this team. But let's just put it this way. Terrion Arnold will be a top 4, no less, in Brad Holmes' legacy of drafting. That's how confident I feel in Terrion Arnold's ability, and even more confident in how I feel in the Detroit Lions' ability to get these guys set up for success. So it'll be interesting to watch. But I love how the Lions have changed, the entire way, of how they do things internally. They make sure that these guys, like Brad Holmes said earlier, are set up with the resources so that these guys have every ability to be the best person, best football player, best teammate that they can be. And I think that the league needs more of that. I don't know what all the other teams do. We just know what the Lions, do and do well. And they really surround their players with a lot of good energy and good outlets and resources and everything else that everyone really needs, to be honest with you. I mean, I wish that everyone had access to the type of resources that they offer. But I mean, it's everything from financial counseling to mental health and wellness. It's nutrition, obviously the doctors and the training staff. I mean, but it's more than that. I mean, there's a lot more to it now. So so Laporta's not there yet. I know that's the toughest one, Adam. That's why it's like right now, Laporta is a top 4. He is right now. Maybe it needs to lengthen to top 5. But I'm thinking overall. See, I'm not high on Aiden just yet. He's got to get to his second contract, and he's got to show me one season where he can really beat his one-on-ones consistently. Sack numbers are meaningless to me because if we were to go back, you know what? We'll do it. We'll do it together. Maybe we'll do it on a live, or maybe I'll break down. Maybe I'll break down and do a video. I want to look at every single one of Aiden Hutchinson's sacks together and have a conversation about it. Because there's some people that are so high on sacks that, the numbers are what they are and they mean everything. And I know that I can show you a different light, that the sack numbers don't transition to success. You can have the most sacks in the world because you tap somebody down. And I know Aiden had a few of those last year. He had a few of them his first year. That's not what I want to see. I want to see you beat your one-on-one and go and smash the quarterback. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see, a 5 or 6 second play that then the quarterback ends up on the ground because, 4 or 5 defensive players got to him and Aiden just happened to get credited for the sack. So there's a big difference for me in how I look at sacks and what they really mean and how they transition, to success of the defense. Sacks are always good from the standpoint that they do help your team, or help the defense put the offense into a negative situation, hopefully negative yardage. But it also depends on when you're getting the sacks too. I mean, I don't think there's ever really a bad down that you wouldn't want to get a sack, but like when in the game, are you getting the sacks? Like, is it crunch time? Is it when your team really needs a play from you? Or is it just kind of throughout the game and doesn't really change the game? Because if you're going to look at an elite defensive end or an elite edge rusher or an elite defensive tackle, what makes them elite is that they get you a play when you need it. Not just because, but that play when you need it. The game is on the line. It's the fourth quarter, and Matthew Stafford's running down the field over 40 times in his career. That's an elite quarterback that puts the team on his back and brings them down the field. Now, he didn't have all the rest of the acumen to go with it in Detroit, but he had that. That's what makes him elite. Calvin Johnson, it's 3rd and 17. There's one guy on the team that that can get that first down, and he's got 3 defenders on him. And he goes up and he gets it in triple coverage. That's elite. It's 4th and 1, 4th and 2. There's 45 seconds on the clock. You're up by 3 points. The opposing team is on the 7-yard line. They get a first down. You know that they're going to win the game or at least tie the game. Let's say you're up by 2 points. It's 4th and 2. They're on the 7-yard line. And there's 45 seconds on the clock. They get a first down. They're going to kick a field goal and win if they don't punch it in. Your defensive end goes in and gets a sack. Strip fumble, whatever it is, causes a turnover. That's elite. Or better yet, they're at the 35-yard line. They're within range, right? It's 4th and 2, it's 3rd and 2, and you get a sack, and you knock them back 7 yards out of range. Now, they're not out of range for Boom Boom Bates, but they're still out of range for their kicker. That's elite. That's the difference for me. So I wouldn't want to have another edge rusher. I don't think out of that draft. I mean, I was really high on Kayvon Thibodeau, but you're also looking at two different positions, and I can't stand it when. And I know I just went off on a tangent here, but this thing irks me. When you're comparing two players that don't play the same position, you can't do that. You can't. Kayvon Thibodeau, I think, has a higher ceiling than Aiden did. Aiden, the year that he came out, I felt like was this year's Jared Verse. Someone that's going to come in hot, ready to go, is going to make some plays, but his ceiling's not as high. Whereas Dallas Turner is more like that Kayvon Thibodeau, that he's got a much higher ceiling. He may not come in and spark right away, but once he does and that flame is lit, he's going to take off. That's how I projected that draft going, that between those two players, that's the difference that I saw between them. In this year, it's same thing with Jared Verse and Dallas Turner. That's the difference I saw between them. And I guess we'll see what happens. In 2 or 3 years from now, we might be right here and you might bring it up and say, hey, Will, remember when you said that Dallas Turner was going to have a higher ceiling than Jared Verse and you were wrong? And you said the same thing about Aiden Hutchinson and Kayvon Thibodeau and you were wrong? I mean, hey, I'd rather have you make me out to be a liar, because that means that you guys are paying attention to the things that I'm saying and we're having good conversation. It's all love and football, man. That's all it is. It's all love and football. All right, what do we got here? Adam says, don't tell me about a player that hasn't played a full season. Never. Who are you talking about there? Kayvon? Yeah. Yeah, he was injured his first year. I think he missed like four or 5 games, I think, his first year. And you know what? Let's just look real quick. Now you got me interested, because I don't even know what Kayvon Thibodeau's stats are right now. We're 3 seasons in now, so now it's going to start getting real. Let's take a look. Oh, you're talking about Davenport? Yeah. Did someone bring up Davenport? Oh, I see your previous comment. Yeah, Hutch has shown flashes but isn't consistent. So the thing about Hutch, and this is just my own, Brendan Rice went to the Chargers. No shit, man. The thing about Aiden is, you're right. It's a consistency thing. I feel like he freelances, a little bit too much. And I don't know if it's just his high energy, he's a super high energy dude. And year over year, huge transition for Aiden. But last year, to this past year, or his first year to this past year, he had a big change for the better in how he performed in certain situations. And what I mean by that is he wasn't getting sucked in behind the quarterback as often. And he didn't leave too far of a gap between him and the defensive tackle during plays. And I saw him actually sit down on the end and close it off. Whereas his first year, I mean, he was like 12 yards behind the line of scrimmage, behind Carson Wentz when he got like one of his first 3 sacks. And then Carson fell into him, kind of backed up into him. So he was all the way around on the other side, like almost on the other hash mark. He had no business being there. If Carson would have turned his head and looked the other way, he had a wide open player. And that would have been a big gain. And we've seen quite a few of those. So Aiden had a huge improvement year over year. And I think it's going to be even better this year with our new defensive line coach. Even better. So let's compare these two, even though I don't compare Kayvon and Aiden. I just don't think you can. But people were, and I said, all right, well, if you're going to, this is what I see. I see bigger ceiling versus bigger impact year one. This would be an interesting comparison. All right. So Aiden Hutchinson has 21 career sacks. Kayvon Thibodeau has 15 and a half. And if we look at the game logs, you guys want to see some of this stuff on the screen? Let's just do it. This is how I kind of look at players. I can't believe I'm going into a whole nother segment right now. I got shit to do, but it's all right. We'll do it. I get my mouth running to get myself in trouble. Love football too much, man. All right. So if we look at the game logs, this is last year. So Kayvon Thibodeau looks like he played the entire season. So that's good. Got a first full season in. Whoops, went too far. What's going on here with all these stupid ads? Come on, get out of there, ads. I want to find the snap count. That's what I'm looking for. Where is it? It's usually right here. I don't want splits. I guess we'll go to advanced. Did they change their site? It's like missing. Oh, come on. And it's on Pro Football Reference, so I don't know why it didn't pop up. Right here. So Kayvon Thibodeau had 980 defensive snaps. 980. And Aiden Hutchinson. I swear they changed something because there used to be a thing right here that said snap count. I've only used it every single year. This is playoff snap count. You got snap counts over here, but they don't total it all up for you, which I think is the dumbest thing ever. And why wouldn't you total it up? Oh, Lord. All right, here we go. Aiden Hutchinson had 988. And that should be regular season. So that's almost identical, right? Almost identical. 980 to 988. Yeah, Mike P. I made it down. Oh, yeah, it'll definitely help for him to have Brian Burns. But if you look at, Dexter Lawrence, compare him to Ali McNeil, I think that's what you got to do. But at the end of the day, those aren't the things that I'm looking for. I'm looking for one-on-ones. I'm looking for pass rush win rate, things of that nature. I'm not going to compare all this right now because this is going to take me too long. But here's what I am going to do. I want to pull one thing up. So these are the stats that I really dig into. And it's pass rush win rate. These are the stats that it would make you elite. Okay. Now you got Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett. Obviously, Myles Garrett is the best defensive end, in my opinion, in the league, but you're comparing two different guys here. Myles Garrett is not a Micah Parsons. So Micah Parsons is an outside linebacker. Myles Garrett's a defensive end. You know, you can't compare some of these guys, but what this is showing us is who had the best pass rush win rates last year. And for you to make this list, you had to have a minimum of 18% pass rush win rate, right? You see that up here, pass rush win rate. 18% was the floor. Or you had to be double teamed. See the stat there, double teamed, at least 15% of the time. Aiden Hutchinson was not in either of those. He was not in either of those categories. And this was through all 18 games, as of January 9th of 9 a.m. If you go to defensive tackle, pass rush, win rate, there's your Dexter Lawrence. 19%, 71% double teamed. Double teamed 71% of the time, and he won 19% of the time. That's insane to me. Aaron Donald, double teamed 63% of the time. He won 20% of the time. Again, insane numbers. Now, Ali McNeil was on this list until he got hurt. Kobe Turner, the guy that I wanted the Lions to get last year, double teamed 72% of the time. Won 12% of the time. Pretty darn good for a rookie. But these are the stats that I look at and that I study, because this will tell you, when people say, hey, Aiden Hutchins double teamed all the time, every play. Well, it's not true. It's not. It's just not true. It's not on this list. It's not true. And DJ Reader is double teamed. There was a stat out that he was double teamed more than 50% of the time, and that Aleem was doubled more than 50% of the time. But obviously, Aleem and Reader both got hurt last year, so they disappeared off these lists. So anyway, these are the stats to pay attention to next year. Those are the ones that are really going to tell you how good your team is. How good these players are. And don't believe all the hype that people are just telling you. Go look at the stats. Just go look at the stats. And I'll show you guys the stats. I will not steer you wrong. I don't have an ulterior motive to tell you something that's not true. I live through the stats, man. I think it tells a good part of the story. And then through research, we will develop the rest of the story. But anyway, look, it's been an exciting weekend. I can't say it enough, and I'm going to say it again. Congratulations to the city of Detroit, Lions fans from around the world, especially this country, for showing out and showing the NFL who we are as fans. Broke the attendance records all 3 days, broke the overall attendance record. Just an incredible weekend. Congratulations to the city of Detroit, storefronts and all of the surrounding businesses. This was a huge opportunity for everybody to get a win, and they did. So this is a big win for the city of Detroit. It's a big win for the fans and the Detroit Lions. Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, the entire team did an excellent job throughout this draft. I'm super excited to see what's next. And I can't wait. OTAs are going to be just around the corner. Rookie minicamp is going to be just around the corner here in a couple of weeks. And if we can get an invite to rookie minicamp, I will certainly try to get out there and get some coverage. We'll see how it goes. But until the next one, which should be tomorrow morning, Billy Sims, hoping everything goes well and we get the stream launched. I've got to pack up everything tonight, get it ready to rock and roll, and head out to Detroit. So we'll be back in the D tonight. You guys take care. Have a good night. Go Lions.